Today, we're going to be talking about all things parenting tips. Parenting can be a major tension when it comes to marriage, and a lot of us end up having it be a major distraction in our marriage as well. So, today, we wanted to take time to share tips that have made our lives easier and our marriage easier. And so, Dr. Kim, what are your top parenting tips? We're going to kind of break this down by ages. What are your top parenting tips for parenting babies?
I think I was thinking back to when before we had our kids. And I think the first thing I would say for couples that are either pregnant now or fostering or getting ready to adopt, that kind of thing, is that your life's going to change. I've had so many people say, oh, our life will be still the same. And I think they get such a shock. And I think the thing is, you are going to have a new normal. It's great, but it's going to change your life. And I think if I've seen actually working a couple of weeks ago, that they really kind of continued we don't have any kids lifestyle for a few months afterwards. And it was, that just doesn't work. You've got to adjust. If you're going to have your kid grow healthy, you got to make those adjustments. So I would say that. The other things I think that helped us is when somebody told me, you will not be a perfect parent. You are going to make mistakes. And I don't know, I think that gave me some freedom because, I just wanted everything to be perfect and realized that you're not going to be a perfect parent, but God he'll guide you, and God has a way of redeeming things that we mess up as parents. And I think the other thing that your child is not as fragile as the baby's not as fragile as you think they are, that they really are, they're going to survive. I mean, unless you do something really, really bad. So, I mean, I think you want to be cautious with them, but not to the point where you're just on, eggshells all the time about that. Yeah. And then I think the other thing I thought of that I deal with, especially with young parents, is that everybody's telling them what to do. In-laws, maybe even friends that have a couple of kids. I mean, everyone that's ever had a kid thinks they're an expert. And hopefully they were on their kid, but this is your kid. And so I tell couples, I say, you guys together need to figure out what you want for your home, your family, and your baby, and do that. You can be cordial to other people. You can listen and then just not do it, but don't get into where this person said this and that, and so you're just confused. And if you're confused, your baby's confused too.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you make such a great point. I think that there's this balance, right, between yes, a baby is fragile and you should take into consideration what other people are saying around you and their wisdom, but also this balance of well, you're their mom or you're their dad and you're with them all the time. So yes, listen to wise counsel of other people who have had babies, but also know that if you feel like something's up with your baby, don't be afraid to push harder with a pediatrician, right, or whatever it may be. And I love how you mentioned that they're not so fragile. I think that's one of the most anxious things about being a new parent today is because every horror story there ever was, everyone knows about it because right, of the media-driven world that we live in.
Yeah.
And so every baby that dies of SIDS, about it. Whereas before you didn't get that news. If it didn't happen in your town, you didn't know it. Yeah. And so I think that can cause a lot of anxiety. I'll never forget, I had a really good friend have her first baby. And she was so nervous that first night home from the hospital while they were in their own home. And she asked me, she said, well, who's going to make sure my baby's still breathing in the middle of the night? I can't sleep because who's going to make sure she's still breathing? And so I was like, I'll make sure she's still breathing. So I stayed the night because she just needed that. But the reality is there's nothing you can do if your baby stops breathing. You know what I mean?
No.
That's the reality of it. Yes, tragic things happen like that every once in a great while, but there's nothing anyone can, you staying awake isn't gonna do anything.
No.
You need rest. And so, but it's just we just feel crazy because you hear those horror stories.
You do. I think that's a great point that you do hear more of it now. And so I think you have to maybe it does take a few days to get some confidence of that and realize that, because you're going to do something. You're going to, I don't know, the baby's going to do something and they're not going to get hurt, but you're going to think, oh my gosh. And you're going to like, oh, they're okay. And so, yeah. They're a lot tougher, I think, sometimes than we think they are. And you just got to be cautious in the areas that to be cautious of.